Let me finish with some rapid fire based on stuff that you've posted on LinkedIn over the years, okay? In startups, we build the boat as we sail. What do you mean by this?
The idea is not good enough. It's just almost like a hull. Maybe it'll hold water, but there's no system. You can't live on it. You can't live from it. You can't do stuff. So as we go into a direction, you'll find that there are hundreds of systems, processes, and other things you have to get good at in startups that you might not want. So as a founder and entrepreneur, you're in love with your idea. Let's just say you're gonna build self-refilling glasses, and you just love the idea of self-refilling glasses because that's the thing to do. The thing is that there's a big difference between an idea and a business. So now you have to build the structures. You have to build manufacturing control processes. You have to build KPIs. You have to hire a field sales force. You have to understand how your channel works. You have to do a whole bunch of stuff that professional people in corporate get paid a lot of money to do and master that detail of. That might be a bit of a drag because it's like less cool. You want to be sitting there and doing events in the glass world and talking about how cool your thing is. But there's so much stuff you have to build. There's so much infrastructure. And I mean commercial, corporate processes, quality control, regulate. There's just so much stuff that a business needs that an idea doesn't.
That's very similar to something else you said as well. You said less time doing the epic stuff, more time doing the basics well.
It's exactly the same thing. Most businesses that I've seen who had epic, larger than life founders that didn't master the detail of their business. Yeah. If their idea wasn't as flawless as they thought, they went off a cliff. And that's because there was no resilience into their system and resilience in the model. They wanted to do the high value, cool stuff. They wanted to be here hanging out with you.
Sure. Yeah.
Doing the podcast.
Sure. Yeah.
Yesterday, I was doing something a lot less fun. I was sitting with my team looking at the handover process between the sales organization and our customer delivery team. And we were battle testing all of the processes. Say, okay, so what meeting? What's the collateral? Is there a piece of paper that shows us what to do? What's the checklist? And that is groundwork in the detail, minutia.
Yeah, much less fun than this, but that's the foundation.
This is infinitely more fun.
Yeah, exactly. That will make you infinitely, a lot of money if you can nail that and make it, scalable and it can be repeated and trained to other people and that sort of thing.
And what we discovered was something really interesting. So as we went through the process, I said, okay, now just imagine that we're now at the kickoff meeting for the customer. Yeah. Are you telling me that now that our solution consultants are finished, which are pre-sales, now that we have our delivery consultants, right now, how many have we hired? And they're like, 2. I'm like, are you telling me that the entire success of my business depends on these 2 graduate delivery consultants? And the guys are like, yeah, we didn't think of that. And it's like, okay, guys, risk, let's fix that. And to lead your idea, you need to master that level of detail, of analysis to understand. You need to be able to zoom in to any process in your business to understand what that is and then contribute towards it. At the same time, you also need to have experts that know more than you do and trust them to get on that job. So there's no point hiring a brilliant product builder and then telling them how to build product because you probably haven't done that before. There's no point in hiring a great world-class CFO and then telling them how to do accounting. It's just, it's ridiculous. But sometimes this whole new, young, 20-something, early 30s founder that hasn't had some life experiences of being hit enough yet, they, like I did in my first business, maybe fell in love with their own beauty a little bit too much. Whereas I think the humility of being able to be countermanded by your own management team saying, actually, boss, that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea because of these 3 things. So let's not do it. And then having the humility to say, okay, that's greatness.
Yeah. Let me finish up with one final thing you posted on LinkedIn. Some of these were from a few years ago, so they might not be immediately coming to mind. But pessimists sound smart, optimists make money.
Yeah.
So true, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that is completely true. Look at how many people. So how many analysts? Gartner, Deloitte, whatever. How many analysts that just point out the obvious flaw in Google's plans and Microsoft's plans, etc. How many analysts really believe in what they say?
Probably not many. I mean,
I would say not many, because otherwise they would be stock traders.
Sure.
And they would be buying the equity of the reports that they're writing.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't need to write a report for Gartner or anybody else, because they know how to predict the future and they know how obvious it is. So just put 50,000 quid onto it and watch it go 10x, right? So it's very easy to sit aside and go, that'll never work, 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 that'll never work. And to be negative requires no effort, is usually right, and can be confused by people as wisdom.
It's lazy though, it's just, you're scared to get in the arena yourself. So you'll stand from the sidelines, and it's easy to be a keyboard warrior and comment on other people. It's very hard to actually take the risk and the gamble and get in there.
I have more respect for any entrepreneur than I do for the role that I used to have. I was a senior director at Microsoft. I had hundreds of people. I ran a continent for VMware. I did a whole bunch of cool things. And I was convinced at my own awesomeness because of my org chart or whatever else. I actually respect my first wife and her business that she's been able to build, which I think is actually pretty cool. She's got 4 branches now, and she's doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I think the example that she set for our kids has been fantastic, of just hard work. And she's built her own business. It's not going to take over the world, but she feeds herself from the work of her own entrepreneurial vision. And so do thousands and thousands and thousands of small business owners and small business entrepreneurs that they don't look forward to the 25th of the month. They fear
you got to pay other people. Yeah.
They fear it.
I know what you mean, man. Yeah.
They fear it.
I used to look forward to it.
Corporate world. And Microsoft, the system was designed to give you 4 quarterly bonuses and then 1 annual performance bonus. So 5 out of the 12 months would be an unusual payroll month. And that is fantastic, right? I mean, you get an extra huge amount of cash, and then obviously once a year you get shares as well, which are going up in stock. So the value proposition in the 2000s and the 90s for a Microsoft employee was incredible. And I never had to worry about things like, how am I going to pay my mortgage and all that stuff. It was all automatic. It was all kind of assumed. Even somebody running a hot dog stand, I have more respect for, because they don't know sometimes how they're going to be tomorrow. But every day they have that attitude, they have that experience. I respect the entrepreneur. I don't care what you do in entrepreneurship, more than I have the corporate vice president. And the entrepreneurs that I've met that have, like 1 or 2 or 3 stores and that manage it, like say my first wife did, have tended to be nicer people than the average corporate vice president that needs an entourage of 6 people around and says, hey, Alfie, get the detail here. Let's follow up next week. I've pronounced my judgment on you. And when you look at it, get rid of the average corporate VP, fire them, the company doesn't notice. And then the new one comes in, the company didn't notice. And everyone thinks they're going to change the world, but the model's already being kind of built. So the optimist part of let's do something new, let's do something different. Let's do a different communication strategy. Let's recruit in a different way. Whatever your gap that you're passionate about, the people that know that the larger the corporate, the less flexibility and empowerment you have to do something new. Eventually those optimists that say, you know what, I'm going to back myself to do a new type of business. And I might fail. You're going to laugh at me. But before you're allowed to laugh at me, you try it.
Yes, and 99% never do.
Don't. Yeah, so our road is the entrepreneurial vision, is a lonely one. That's why we as entrepreneurs need to stick together. We need to look after each other. I try to buy from any small business I can before I'll buy from a big brand. I try to help anybody who is trying to find their own way through life. We have to have a support network for ourselves. The government won't, because fundamentally it's easier to deal with 100 big businesses that deal with 80% of the economy than it is with hundreds of thousands that deal with 20% of the economy. I know that's not necessarily the way that the math works out, but it's just easier to deal with smaller entities. So you're always going to pay more attention to the Oracles and the Ciscos than you are going to a 3-person shop down the line. But if no one's going to support that 3 shop down the line, how do we create the passion of what's next? And that to me is what Finxone's about. That to me is to create the technology tools so that class of the new dreamers, the people that are aspiring to do something new, can find that new thing. And the how is taken care of now. I want the world to be about the what.